Dreaming of a white Christmas, just like the ones I used to know.
Welcome back to the At Home with Roby show. I'm Ashley Davis along with Trent Haston. We're your host. We're still joined by Jeff and Bobby. We're telling stories. This is kind of our holiday show. We're talking about what's been going on over the years, some client stories and things like that. If you want to know more about Andrew Roby, visit us at andrewroby.com. So Trent and guys, it's great to have you here. And during the break, Trent, we were sharing a few stories just about how they've had some experiences, not just with your dad, but also with some clients over the years.
Yeah, no, and we're talking a lot about Dad because he, like I said, these are two of Dad's most favorite people on earth, and though we had my granddad and Mr. Roby's generation, you know, preceding my dad and overlapping with my father, my dad truly, and what I know about Roby, was the patriarch of the business. So it's fun to talk about him. I mean, I want to carry on the tradition. But walking over here, I was asking Jeff, because our office is right across Moorhead. I was asking Jeff about any stories about Boss Man. Boss Man was Big G, and that was my granddad. Jeff told me a story. I don't even really remember. Jeff, you want to refresh me on that story?
Oh, that story?
Yeah.
Trent was my helper, and we were at a job, and I sort of pissed him
Hardest
off.
working helper.
I sort of made him mad, and he went to his granddaddy complaining about me. His granddaddy told him I was his boss, and he told Trent that I was his boss, and he had to do it. And Trent that day also said that I reminded him of his mama nagging at him.
Who I love, my mama so much. Mama, if you're listening, I love you. And if you're not listening, since I'm say I love you twice on this show, I'm gonna let you listen to the podcast. Also, Bobby, you were saying something during the break about how you knew that you needed to calm down on the job.
Yes, sir, absolutely. We would be out with Boss Daddy, that is, and we'd be having quite a few guys out, and sometimes you're trying to get guys to pay attention to what you're doing and then not get a little frustrated. And one of his things, when he sees that I was frustrated, never really saying anything to me, he'd just grab a cup of tea or a soda, and he would give me that. And it was my way of his way of telling me, calm down, Bobby, calm down. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, I can tell y'all something about a story about my dad. Growing up, I tell this story. I played Dilworth Little League Baseball, and we live out on the river, out Wilkinson Boulevard, out Highway 74. And every evening of my life as a kid, we would come down Remount Road, cross over West Boulevard, hang a left on the Wilkinson, and my dad would stop at the Service Distributor gas station on the corner of Old Still Creek and Wilkinson, across from Burger King. And he would leave me in the truck with the windows down, and it was such a vivid memory that he would go in and get his smokes and get gas, but he would never buy me a drink because he was so tight. I mean, he just taught me that you don't go to the gas station and spend $5 on crap. Now, he'd buy his smokes, but people would come up and ask him for money. And now today, I don't know, that doesn't happen that much around there, but he would want to give them money, but he'd always want something for it. So he'd always say, you got any jewelry or anything? And for some reason back then, they all had jewelry hanging in their trench coat, you know, and it was all fake jewelry. So my dad would just feel like he hustled something. So if he gave him $5 or $10, he'd get a couple gold-plated chains, you know, some Figaro chains that I would have. But I'm so blessed about that memory. But to take it forward, I don't know if it was when I was 17 or 18 or what, or, you know, my dad had made $1. I guess this is when he said we became lower middle class. Every time he stopped at the gas station, he'd ask me if I wanted a Coke. And I'd say no. I mean, Bobby, you brought this story up in my mind. I'd say, no, I'm good. No matter what, he'd bring me back a Coke. So when I started drinking Diet Cokes, which my dad always drank Diet Cokes, I'd say, hey, I don't want a Coke, but if you're ever going to bring me back a Coke when I say no, make sure it's a Diet Coke. So That's kind of cool. I guess he was trying to shut me up because I was in his ear.
He always bought everybody a Coke.
Well, that was his trademark, right? But that was like, in my eyes, it was a coming of age and it was a respect. And frankly, I think of it now as he knew as his son, he was trying to teach me how to manage money. He realized at the time that I knew how to manage money.
Folks, if you're just tuning in, you're listening to the At Home with you're listening to the At Home with Roby show. Visit us today at andrewroby.com, or you can always give us a call at 704-334-5477. We're talking about the history of the Andrew Roby Company. We got some really special employees with us, members of the Roby family. And Trent, it's great to hear these stories of how they interacted with your grandfather and your father, and now you guys are sitting in the room together. That's what the company's all about.
No, it is, and they carry on. I mean, it's funny. They're in here. It's very emotional, which this show should be emotional because that's what the holiday and the Christmas season is about. It's about family. It's about reminiscing. But when these guys are around, I mean, I not only think about Dad, I'm thinking about Granddad a lot more than I've ever thought about him in recent time. I'm thinking about Leroy. I'm thinking about the Saturdays when I was 10 and Leroy was at the house, not Bobby, pre-Bobby. Running the Bobcat, and Jeff was hanging out, knocking around, and I mean,
I was carrying the timber behind the Bobcat so it wouldn't roll back down the hill.
Right. Were you there the day that he about went into the lake?
It.
And for some reason, he went flying down the hill about 50 miles an hour, and he would have been dead. He would have jumped into the lake, and for some reason, God touched him, and it cut on, and he cut it to the right.
Spun it around down at the bottom of the hill.
That is an extremely. I was telling Reagan and my kids about that story the other day. Now, Bobby, you always were the apple of my dad's eye, in my opinion, because you always got to recycle the metal. And that was Bobby's thing.
Yes. Wow. Yes, he had.
As tight as my dad was, we across metal. It comes in waves, and metal's worth more at sometimes than not at sometimes, but we get metal, and it's a laborious to retrieve the metal because you have to take apart windows and doors and stuff like that, and it's a lot of hard work. But my dad would always stack it up on the side, and Bobby and little Bobby Jr. come in on Saturdays and they'd do that and separated
and all. It's been good. It's been a blessing.
I'm gonna be honest with you, Bobby. I'm 16 years in and I've calmed down a lot over my 16 years. I say it's like exponential. I become my dad more and more. I used to get on him about loaning people money and not beating on him about getting his money back. And he'd say, "Leave me alone." And he'd had a rental house. He wouldn't go collect his rent. He was tired. I was yelling at him all the time, and not really, but I was working him. And sometime in the early 2000s, I said, "Why does Bobby do this? We need to do this as a company." He said, "Boy, there's just some things," and I loved you, Bobby. I was just trying to run a fiduciary business, right? And he said, "Boy, there's just some things you let happen and you do, and they got to happen that way." And he shut me up. And now, 10, 12 years later, that's my answer to people, right?
Yes, sir.
You're our boy, your family, and that's your niche.
It has been, and it's been great.
And it's fun to see you you carry little Bobby with you and teaching him how to work. And Jeff, you have adopted your grandson?
Yes.
So it's pretty cool. We rode by your house. Jeff lives in the neighborhood. We rode by your house the other evening, and I had my daughter with me, and you were out there in the yard. I think you were doing some lighting, some Christmas lighting
right.
With your grandson. It was really cool to see the cycle of life work around. So I'll tell you, go ahead.
And then I go to work every Sunday because we play in the yard at the shop.
Oh, okay. I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
That's his time. That's little man's time.
I'm 7 days a week.
Well, I know that. I didn't know you took him to the shop with you every Sunday.
That's where he likes to go hang out.
Well, I'll tell you, my favorite memory, we did not have the shop when I was a kid, but we did have our office, which was an old house, and then we didn't have a yard at the time or a shop, so you'd have some materials and sand pile in the backyard, man. I thought I was king of the world playing around that place. So what y'all are providing for your children and your grandchildren, guys, is very special, and it resonates. And I don't ever tell you how much that means to me and how I'm teaching my family through y'all and how we're all one, but it's that way. So, y'all have any last things to say?
Not right this moment.
Thanks for being here. Thanks for
my gold watch.
They want a gold watch. I got some gold-plated Figaro. I think they're green, but you know the special thing about it? Dad bought those a long time ago.
Wow.
Thank you guys for being here.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Absolutely. It's great to hear these stories and to really, you know, as a newer member of the Roby family of companies, it's great to be a part of it and hear what's going on over the last couple of years, and it's an honor to be a part of it myself. So thanks for being here for me.
Thank you.
Folks, you're listening to the At Home with Roby show. Visit us today at andrewroby.com, or you can always give us a call at 704-334-5477. Stay with us. We'll be right back.